Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my February 2025 wrap up. So I'm pretty happy with how the month went. I read a lot more books in the month than I did January. I read some really great books. My overall ratings were great. You know, it just was a really good month considering how short it was. I still have some carryovers that I have to bring into March because I didn't complete my entire TBR I wanted to, but I'm still happy regardless because it was also a very busy month for me, and it was also a very, I don't know if stressful is the right word, but stress is definitely a factor. So let's go ahead and get into the stats for the month. So I got through 14 books total. 12 of them were completely finished, and I did have 2 DNFs in the month of February. I read a total of 3,008 pages, which, if I look back at January, is more than what I did in the month of January. I beat that by just less than 200 pages. Then in terms of audiobooks, I listened to a total of 40 hours, 49 minutes, and 3 seconds worth of audiobooks, whereas in January I did not listen to any audiobooks. I had 6 5-star reads, 3 4-star reads, 2 3-star reads, 1 2-star read, no 1-stars, but I did have 2 DNFs. And of the books I read, all of the books I read this month, or that I tried to read at least, were from my personal library. I did not borrow anything from my local library or Libby or Hoopla or really anything. Okay, so let's get into the books that I read this month. So first of all, I did finish Mask of the Deer Woman by Laurie L. Dove. This was a carryover from January that I didn't finish in the month of January, so I finished it in the month of February, and I ended up giving this a 3-star. This ended up on Cawpile at a 6.71, so a fairly high 3-star. The main thing I had a problem with this one was that it felt like I just did not really care for the main character. I didn't really have any feeling towards her, and so then I wasn't really as invested in the mystery as I wanted to be. It just felt like there was a lot of repetitiveness about some of the things that she was dealing with while going back to the reservation, and it was really clouding her judgment, and I felt like it just was not necessarily what I wanted out of this. I also though thought that the overall mystery was really confusing, like the ties between different things I felt was a little confusing because I just didn't fully grasp all of it, but overall it wasn't too bad. Next, I ended up finishing up an audiobook that I also carried over from January, which was for Empire of Shadows by Jacquelyn Benson. This was my absolute favorite book of the entire month. It was a 10 out of 10. It was everything that I wanted it to be and more. This was pitched to me as being very Mummy Indiana Jones feeling, and it definitely hit those vibes, and it was just so good. This follows a girl who is very much like an Evelyn. She is someone that is super invested in myths and folk tales and history, and she wants to get involved on this big project that is going on in essentially the Amazon, having to do with, Aztecs and Mayan culture and a ton of different stuff. So she ends up basically stealing this map and whisking herself away to the Amazon and meets up with this kind of rough and tumble, very Rick O'Connell inspired character who is kind of the guy that leads people through the Amazon and protects them, and it kind of goes from there. It is so much fun. I feel like I can't say much about this though without spoiling it, because there's so many good things about this. There, I will say, are direct scenes from The Mummy that you can see in this book that are directly inspired by the movie, which I absolutely loved. And then there's so many things about it too that are so very different. There are so many different things that are very, very different and set it apart from the movies that it's inspired by and the books it's inspired by, But it was so much fun. I had such a great time. I don't feel like there was ever a dull point with it for me. from beginning to end, just absolutely loved it. And that's why it was my favorite book of the entire month. The next book I ended up reading, I read in an entire day, and that was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I read this in the entire day leading up to the live show, all 435 pages of it. On CloudPile, this ended up getting a 9 out of 10, which really sums up, I think, my feelings of this. There was like a little bit here and there where I kind of got lost, but I love Fitz. Fitz, I am like swooning over. I love this so much. And like I said in the live show, this series so far, this world is a very ethereal feeling for me. Like, I feel so ingrained in the world, and I feel like it's such a beautiful like feeling reading these books, which I have not had from a fantasy in a very, very, very long time. And there's something very different about this world than any other world I've read from. But if you want to hear all my thoughts on that, you'll have to go check out the live show that I did for this and The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince, because pretty much all of my thoughts on this are in that. I realize now, going through my readings from this month, that I'm a little bit off. I actually had a couple of books that were borrowed from my library, because the next one was actually an audiobook I borrowed, which was for Lights Out by Navessa Allen. This, I was shocked with how much I like this. I did not think I was going to enjoy this. I did not think I was going to love it as much as I did. And I did. I ended up giving this one an 8.71 out of 10 on CloudPile, which equated to about a 4.5 star. And I loved this. This was so much fun. This was so much fun. I do not condone any of the things that are involved in this, because trigger warnings for stalking and potential sexual assault and murder and blood and gore and like a lot of things. But I was eating this up. The audiobook by itself was so freaking good. This is like the way I would read it if I was to read it again, because honestly, I had heard so many people say the audiobook was so good from like TikTok and Instagram and all these things. And so I decided to go with the audiobook to read it, and I was not disappointed. The male narrator, beautiful, so well done. And I did like how each of the characters had their own flaws and their own things about them that made them not super perfect. And I do like how a lot of what the male narrator was doing in terms of like bad things was really challenged a lot. But at the same time, you know, there is this kind of thing where there are some people that kind of like this kind of stuff. That's kind of the part of their kink. And so, you know, like, it wasn't something where like you really could absolutely hate what was going on, because otherwise that would be kink shaming, and I don't kink shame. Whatever you like, you do. It's fine by me. Just be safe is all I care about. And I, though necessarily wouldn't be doing any of the stuff that was really involved with this, I come to appreciate the kink diaspora that there is, or the spectrum that there is when it comes to kink in general. And I definitely enjoyed this. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very easy to fly through. I think I finished this in like 2 days, and most of it I read in 1 day, and it was just so much fun and really engaging, and just, I don't know, just something about it was just really, really good. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely something I would recommend if you're getting into dark romances specifically. The next book I read was my most disappointing book so far this year, and that was The City in Glass by Nghi. Now, I ended up giving this a 4.57 on CloudPile, which equated to a 2.5 star. My thing with this, I did not know what the hell was going on. I finished the book, which usually qualifies for me to give a 2-star in general. I liked some aspects of the world. I thought it was kind of cool. I liked some aspects of the magic, but did I know what was going on at all from the beginning? No, not at all. I didn't know how characters were related. I didn't know anything about what was the actual plot of the story. And here's what I chalked up to being. I have read a Nghi book in the past, and I did not really like it either. I just believe that Nghi is not necessarily an author for me, because the books I've read of theirs have gone way over my head. And that has nothing to do with the actual craft of the author. That has nothing to do with the individual author themselves. This is just a writing style and a type of writing that is not for me. And that is totally okay. I'm glad I know that. I'm glad that now I can, you know, maybe steer away from them, or at the very least, unless they come up with something different, I will, you know, steer clear of them, because I know I'm not going to enjoy it as much as I do other books. And I think that that's important to recognize, is that when an author is a little too much for you, or the content of the books, you know, go over your head and don't make any sense to you, it's important to recognize those things, and important to realize that it's nothing to do with the author themselves or how they write or whatever. It's just for some reason their content is not something that is approachable to me, or is accessible to me as a reader. I could not visualize this book very well. I could not really delve into this very well. And again, this was a book I ended up having to borrow because I had completely miscounted all of my books that I borrowed this year. But this one I did borrow from the library, and it's just something that I don't think I would pick out normally either on my own. This was a book club read for one of the Patreons I follow, and I just don't think that this would have been something I would have picked up by myself, and then therefore I just didn't feel like it was something I would pick up again. So definitely not my favorite, but it's not the worst book I've ever read. It's just something that I think is not something for me, and so therefore it kind of got more of a lower rating. This book I read was very fun and definitely something I would read, and that is Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. This is specifically, I borrowed this one also from the library, because the only available option for this book is an Audible, Spotify, or, you know, library audiobook copy. This is a very fun, short romance. This was like 4.5 hours long. It was very fun to read, and it deals with two video game developers, basically, who supposedly hate each other, but really there's like more to the situation than the main character realizes, and they get snowed in with this person when on a retreat, when their two companies decide to come together to work on a video game that is based on a book series. Feels very similar to like The Witcher, if that, you know, makes sense to you. Like if you've read the Witcher books and then you played the Witcher games, you know, it's kind of got that same kind of timeline kind of thing. Not so much like the actual content of the game, but it's really, really cute. It's definitely one of those things where it was fast. It was really quick. I ended up giving this a 9 out of 10 stars on Cawpile, which was a 5-star. I loved this. I thought it was very, very fun, very quick. Definitely something that, you know, I would read again. I have really liked Ali Hazelwood's other books. The only other one I've read being Love Hypothesis, which also I gave 5 stars too. But I really like Ali's writing. I think that it's very well done, and I think that especially for your lighter, fluffier romances, this is the author to go to. I think that she does a very good job. And I love how each book that she writes is involving some kind of STEM or arts that we don't typically see in fiction, and I really, really appreciate that. Now, this book I thought was going to be my top book of the month, but I did just get eked out by Empire of Shadows, but that was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Now, I will be having a full book review of this on my Patreon, so if you want to get my full thoughts on that, go check out my Patreon and maybe subscribe if you would like to. But this ended up giving a 9.71 on Cawpile, very close to a 10-star, but this was a 5 out of 5 star for me. I can't tell you how gut-wrenching this book was for me personally. I do have a vlog where I talk a little bit about the content involved in this and how certain parts of it made me feel, which I will try to see if I can figure out which one it was and link it, but go read this. Read this, read this, read this. This is amazing. That's all I'm gonna say. Next book I read was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Now, I was kind of surprised with how much I liked this, considering that Brandy, from my friend, is not necessarily a huge fan of Grady Hendrix, and she and I have pretty similar tastes, but I was pleasantly surprised with how much I liked this. I ended up giving this a 7.14 or a 4-star, basically, and I think that that sums up pretty much how I felt about this, to be completely honest. Like, I really enjoyed it. There were some things I didn't enjoy as much, but overall, this was not that bad of a story. I thought it was actually really cool, and I liked the magic involved in it. I liked the way that the story wrapped up. I liked how it felt like one cohesive piece, and I liked some of the elements that were involved about witchcraft within this. Some of it is, you know, it's very clearly outdated because it does take place in the 1970s, so a lot of the thoughts about witchcraft within this are very outdated, but are timely for the time period it was placed in, so that was something I had to kind of like navigate within my own mind. But very well done, I think, considering that I did not go into this with any real high expectations. And I am curious to see the rest of Grady Hendrix's catalog and figure out whether or not he is an author I will continue to read from. The next book I read was another very surprising high rating for me because I did not know how I was going to like this. But it was North is the Night by Emily Rath. Now, this is Emily Rath's first fantasy book, but she is very well known for her romance novels. This I ended up giving also a 9 out of 10 or a 5-star. I did not know going into this what I was going to get into. I knew, like, from the synopsis, it was a Finnish inspired fantasy, but I did not expect to eat this up the way that I did. I would read, you know, 100 to 150 pages at a time, and I loved the main characters. I loved the way that the overall story was crafted. I love the way that everything was very connected, and I love the way that this ended too, because it makes me very excited for what book 2 is going to be, which is going to be very battle heavy, I will assume. This was a little bit less battle heavy and a little bit more magic heavy, which I was kind of interested in. I think the only thing that I didn't like about this was there was some logic things that, like, logistics wise, I just was like, I don't know if that necessarily was the best option. I don't know if that was necessarily like the most well thought out plan, but I loved this. I found it so endearing and so much fun, and now I am more interested in reading Emily Rath's romances, because while there wasn't a ton of romance like within all of this, there were some romantic aspects. While that wasn't a heavy part of this book, I would be interested to see what her heavy romance books are all about, because what there was very well done. Now, next I have my first DNF of the month, which was, unfortunately, The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. Now, the reason I DNF'd this, I think, was very understandable. I didn't understand what was going on at all. I got through the first, 20 pages of this, way over my head. Way over my head. I don't know up from down with this. I was so confused. I did not like the writing at all. I'm sure Simon Jimenez is someone that is great for some readers, definitely not for me. I just didn't feel like I really enjoyed this at all, and my head was spinning. Like, I got dizzy trying to read this. Like, it was that awful for me. So I ended up DNFing it, and I will be unhauling this and hopefully giving it away to somebody that is going to enjoy it much more than I did. Next one I was pretty happy with, and I was pretty on par with what I felt with this series so far, and that was Monstress Volume 9, The Possessed. Now, I gave this what did I give? I gave this a 7.71 or a 4-star. This kind of is a filler of sorts. There's not really a lot of action that goes on, which I think for a graphic novel, a 4-star is a pretty, good idea for something that's more of a filler story. There's not really a lot of action that goes on in this, and I don't want to go much into it without spoiling anything, but there is a lot to do with kind of building things up in order to fight back against this very big bad that we have, that we've met in previous installments. But overall, I really like this. I like some of the kind of building up of the things involved in this, because there's a lot of places involved in this that are rebuilding, and I liked the way that that was kind of explored. And then our big bad, we getting to see his perspective and a lot of things that's going on with him, I liked seeing as well. It was just pretty good. I liked it. For a graphic novel, a 4-star is pretty good for me. It's pretty, even keeled. And I just really liked it, and I'm excited to continue with the series when it continues. The next one that I read, I once again was very surprised with how much I liked it, because I thought this was going to be maybe a 3-star, maybe at the most a 4-star. This ended up being a 9.14 on Compile, or a 5-star, and that was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I know, I am the whitest white girl that there is. I am a basic white bitch. Sound off in the comments at how much I'm a basic white bitch, but quite honestly, this was so much fun. This was so much fun. And again, just like with Lights Out, I don't condone any of the things that are involved in this serial killer romance, but oh my gosh, I adore Rowan. Oh my lord, he has my heart and soul. And I love Sloane, and I am so excited to see the rest of this series. I have heard that Leather and Lark was really disappointing for a lot of people, but I don't know. I'm excited to see how that is, because I want to know a little bit more about our friend Lachlan. He seems like a rough and tumble guy that could possibly get softened, and I'm all for that. I love the rough and tumbles that get softened. It's just, ooh, it's so nice. It's so nice. But I also love my golden retriever boys, who are just everything happy and sunshine and just want to please everybody and want to please their partners. And I just, oh, Rowan is just, I love him. I love him so much. Now, the last book I did read in the month was also, unfortunately, a DNF. And I was really sad about this one because it's a book I thought I was going to really like, but I just hated the writing so much, and I did not like the main character at all. And that was The Kiss Countdown by Etta Easton. I just hated this main character. I found her so annoying and boring and just so repetitive, and the writing was not really giving it any justice. I could have dealt with a character I hated if especially the writing was okay, but I did not like the way that this was written. I did not like her perspective. I thought that the overall construction of this, like, fake dating thing was not really well done. It was not my favorite, and I like fake dating tropes, don't get me wrong. This was just not it for me, unfortunately, and I am really disappointed in this because, for one, it's by a person of color, it's involving people of color, and I hate DNFing those, but I am trying to also be true to myself and say, okay, if I don't like something, I don't want to read it. And unfortunately, this was the case. This was the case with this one. I just did not like the main character. I don't care about her. I don't like her. I think she's annoying. I think that she's so wrapped up in herself, and I hate characters that are like that. But the writing also did not help. And I feel like that if the writing doesn't help, I'm not going to enjoy it. So unfortunately, I just decided to give up on this one, and I will be unhauling it and hopefully giving it away to somebody that is going to like it much more than me. Maybe one of my friends will like it more than I will, and that's fine, but for me, it is not, unfortunately. I forgot one. It was sitting right here. I also read Cackle, and this was a 3-star. Not my favorite Rachel Harrison, not my favorite book in the entire world, but definitely something I would recommend if you're looking to get into Rachel Harrison. It was like a 3.5 star. It's okay. It's not my favorite, but definitely something that I thought was worth reading, and it was very fun for part of it. I don't know. Something about the way that this one was constructed was not my favorite, but it's fine. So there, now we have everything that I've read in the month of February. So let me know what you guys ended up reading. Also, if you didn't know, I do have a Patreon that I post exclusive content on, and also get early access to videos like this. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owl in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.